Broadcasting live in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. In the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the nighttime hours, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Wednesday. Good to have you with us. Usually Jeff Stein joining us this week. I got something else in place of Jeff today in just a second. And we, of course, just glad to have you with us. No other guests this year, this hour outside of my next guest, which this is going to be fun. Cliff Schecter is, of course, the head of the Cliff's Edge YouTube page. You can find great content there on YouTube from Cliff, who is kind enough to join us today to talk about his little venture into national news. But even more important, I contact him on Monday to see, hey, can you do my show on Wednesday? And he's like, can't talk now. Where exactly were you at on Monday night?
Well, I was on one of Elon Musk's rocket ships to Jupiter, and we got lost somewhere around the bend. I think it was the dark side of the moon, and then I found Elon's cerebral tissue there. No, that's not what really happened. I was at the game one of the ALCS because, as your fans who listen to me will know, that I grew up in New York, and I am a Yankees fan, and please still like my politics. Hate my sports choices, but my dad was born in the Bronx and took me as a kid, and there's a lot of memories. So yes, I'm a big Yankees fan. It was an awesome game. I got to take my 14-year-old. We rocked it, and man, we sat in the bleachers too. Man, you gotta be serious to sit in the bleachers, because I'm not sitting there getting tanked with my 14-year-old. It doesn't stop everybody around me, though. I'll tell you that. So let's just say when Juan Soto hit a home run, there was beer that got on my 14-year-old. Maybe he even got to drink some.
Let me ask you, how did you ever, I mean, because that is one of the hardest tickets to get in all of sports, and playoff tickets for the Yankees. How did you get tickets to the Yankees?
We actually just jumped on it really early.
Really?
I wish there were like a really cool story about how, I stood outside of a restaurant where I knew one of the Yankees executives was. I mean, we knew we were going to be in New York. It was a fall break for my kids. We're going to visit. My mom still lives in New York in the same apartment I grew up in, and so we're going to visit to see Grandma. And we're like, the luck of it, the LCS game one. And my older son is not really a fan of sports, organized sports in general, but my younger son, he took on my Yankee fandom as well as my wife's and my growing Reds fandom all the time. So we root for both, but Yankees are there, and it was a lot of fun. Giancarlo Stanton hit another missile. Man, that dude is strong. And we had fun. And then I also had fun over the weekend. I'll do the transition for you.
Yeah, please.
Because I threw out a tweet that I just thought was a throwaway tweet, because Meghan McCain, like other Republicans, and she's the one McCain who really is MAGA. She married Ben Dominic, who's the guy who runs the Federalist, who won't tell you who funds it. It rhymes with Schmooten. She's a complete hacker. Her brother, Jimmy, after they said the stuff they said about veterans, the Republicans, and Trump came out and endorsed Kamala Harris, she's turned into this right-wing little troll. And when I wrote a book on McCain in 2008, I was told lots of things, and some of them were by close advisors, one very close advisor to McCain, about her. And at the time, she was a 20-something, and I'm not cruel like Republicans. I don't, let's say, go after Gus Walls, who, so even though she was a 20-something, I was like, this doesn't add anything to my book. I left it out. Now she's become the horrible person she is, and so when she threatened to say what her dad really thought of Kamala Harris, I just was like, fine, do it. I've got notes. I'll say what your dad really thought about you. Nothing good. It was a lot of people retweeted it, which was fun. George Conway and some people, so it blew up big. And then some of it's all the Iraq apologist types who still like Meghan McCain came after me. The John Podoritzes and Eli Lakes and all the ones that lied about WMDs in Iraq, which I reminded them, because they think they're going to come after me and they're going to, I'm going to be like some liberal stereotype and be like, please don't hurt me. Instead, I reminded them of all the blood they have on their hands and asked them if it wakes them up at night from their nightmares of a war they started in a region they destabilized through their lies, and ripped the crap out of them about other stuff too, because I loathe them. They're terrible people. And it ended up making Raw Story, and Stephanie Miller talked about it and whatever. And so here we are. And guess what? If everybody wants to know at least some of the things that were said, you can come by my live stream tomorrow at 1 p.m. I'm sorry, 2 p.m. 1 p.m. is when I guest on somebody else's. I start mine at 2 p.m. and we've had it 2 weeks in a row. This is going to be the third week. And decide that Meghan McCain deserves no protection, no whatever. She's a horrible person who's said horrible things about people. And I have stuff on her. So, I'm going to share it.
Okay, so 2 p.m.
Maybe some of it. Maybe we'll save some for later. 2 p.m., go to Cliff's Edge, YouTube.
2 p.m. Eastern? Is it 2 p.m. Eastern?
That's correct.
2 p.m. Eastern, 1
Join
p.m.
the live stream, and I will save it. I will have a lot of it that I will share. Maybe I'll save some of it for later, but you'll hear some of it.
All right, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, and then 11 a.m. on the Seattle timeline. That's when you're going to be able to hear this tomorrow. Tomorrow, correct?
At Cliff's Edge. If you go to YouTube.com Cliffs, was it _Edge? God, I have to even remind myself. You'll get there, and there'll be a live button. I don't have a link yet to put up because it doesn't create a link until you go live. So you'll see live. Click on that. I should be on for an hour and a half. You can jump in the comment section and say you're enjoying it. Ask me questions. I like to interact. Or just insult me and say what a horrible human being I am for sharing something about Meghan McCain, who is an absolutely awful person by all accounts of everyone who's ever spent more than 5 minutes with her.
All right. I
feel okay about it.
I'm a shill. Is there any preview you want to give exclusively to my show here about anything just suggestion-wise or anything? Or are you going to save the meat and potatoes for tomorrow?
Well, I got to save most of it tomorrow. But, let's say that Mom and Dad didn't very much want her to join Dad's campaign because they knew that everything she did in life was all about her. But there's more details and choice words that were used, and that I have to save for mine.
All right.
So,
and by the way, not anything you just described, not a surprise. I mean, I think
it won't be a surprise. There'll be one or two things I think that you'll be surprised at how. I mean, she's a terrible person, but I was even a little surprised that her dad and mom would say some of these things. But people suddenly start thinking something, and they came after me on Twitter, and they're like, "Well, I'm liberal, and I can't even believe you're doing this." I'm like, "You're the reason we've lost for 25 years." Yeah. You also sat there when Mitch McConnell stole a Supreme Court seat and nodded along. You sat there when they impeached Bill Clinton over nothing and nodded along. You sat there when they knocked down, almost threatened poll workers in 2000 and stole the election from Al Gore. You nodded along. Guess what? I'm not that. I'll be your Huckleberry. You want to come and insult me? You want to come and attack me? I'm happy to respond. And you want to come after our party's nominee, Kamala Harris, and make up some lies that your dad supposedly said? I'm happy to tell the truth about what some people told me. So whatever. Come say whatever you want. In life, as Matt can attest to from when I met him, I'm a pretty happy, easy-go-lucky, whatever kind of guy. But when it comes to people that attack my country, that attack the commonality among all of us, that are bigots, that attack my family, no. Then you might as well label me a sociopath because I have no sympathy for you.
We should back up a little bit here and understand what this context was, because this doesn't make any damn sense for me with her. Donald Trump has been horrible to her dad. Horrible.
Yes.
I get you might begrudgingly. I know a lot of Republicans who are like, okay, I'm not a big fan of Harris, but it sure is not going to be Trump for me. I get that. No problem. I can follow that. You can sit on the sidelines. But for some reason, she decided to get upset because she felt, some Democrats were inappropriately talking about her dad, who was a pretty good American, and a shout out to days of yore as far as Republicans go. And so she threatened to basically say, I'm going to share with everyone what my dad really thought about Kamala Harris. And I'm like, there's a part of that whole thing. And just before you got into your response, I'm like, okay, are you trying to help the guy that basically can totally and completely insulted your father relentlessly?
Yeah,
are you just trying to do that?
She's pathetic. Here's the story, right? Again, and a lot of what I say tomorrow will have a lot to do with it. It's all she cares about. She's a lazy, do nothing, live off of your nepotism, make easy money. But, and that's how she ended up on The View because of her name. She didn't know a damn thing about politics. When she tried to talk about stuff intelligently, it didn't come out intelligently. She doesn't know what she's talking about in politics and political history. I mean, she had nothing to add except for to fight with everybody, including the Republicans who were on that panel there. So she married Ben Dominic. And if people don't know who he is, you can do a nice little Google about him. He was busted 3 different times for plagiarism. The Washington Post fired him. He accepted money from the country of Malaysia or an entity there to write positive things about them. And he's a right-wing loon who is the editor at The Federalist, famously, infamously, again, the paper that will not tell you who supports it, who gives them their money. They will not tell you if they're money laundering operation, which I'm sure they are, for whatever they are. They're right-wing nuts, and she chose to betray her dad and the moderate legacy of her family. And I criticized her dad a lot in the book I wrote, but I can admit, I mean, compared to the Republicans now, the guy's a damn hero.
Yeah.
I always called him a hero in war because I'm not scum like them. I would never touch his war record. I pointed out I wish he had that courage in politics when he started siding with Rove and Bush. Well, you know what? In the end, he still was the one who saved Obamacare by refusing to crush it. No, not Trump, as J.D. Vance said, one of his 10 billion lies. Yeah. It was McCain who did it. And so what has Trump said about her dad? He wasn't a hero. I like people who weren't caught. When the USS McCain, the ship came by, he refused to even be there. I mean, he's constantly disparaged, refused to go to the funeral, and constantly disparaged her father. But she married this right-wing loser, plagiarist troll, and so she's joined the dark side. That's the best thing I can say.
It just is mind-numbing to me because this is not a fight you need to pick. And right now, I mean, we are looking at an election here where the guy who likes to dance on your dad's grave is on the other side. Why you would even dance with the idea of helping him out, I can't figure that out.
I mean, she's a horrid person. There's not really much else to say. No. Jimmy McCain, from all accounts, seems like a pretty quality guy. I don't agree with all of his politics. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I want to make sure you want to hear more on this. Obviously, the live stream tomorrow with Cliff is where you want to hear it. It's on Cliff's Edge YouTube page. I'll post the link to the YouTube page, and when it goes live, there'll be a link there. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. on the West Coast. That's when you'll be able to get this. And obviously, Cliff's going to talk to the details here, and that's an important thing. So tomorrow, Cliff's Edge on YouTube, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, and 11 a.m. in Seattle if you're out there listening to us right now. Let's take a break, come back, and talk about how Donald Trump is dissolving in front of our freaking eyes right now. Cliff Schecter, kind enough to join us on your Wednesday, 952-946-6205. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Cliff Schecter in with us on a Wednesday. We're going to get to Trump just really quick. If you are a Yankees fan, you're up 2-0 on the Cleveland Guardians. You got to play at their stadium now. But if they're looking good for your Yankees team. This is a great question for a Yankees fan. Who would you rather play in the World Series, the Dodgers or the Mets?
I mean, that's a really tough one.
Yeah.
Not for the Yankees' benefit, I would maybe say the Mets, just because it would be a lot of fun as another Subway Series, as somebody who's still very connected to New York. But so here I am jinxing myself. But the Dodgers, let's say the Dodgers don't have the best postseason history, not just recently, but if you go back to the 40s, we pretty much trounced them every year. And I think most of our head-to-heads against them are pretty favorable. So that could be fun, too. I just want Game 7. I don't really care, if I'm being honest with you. I want Game 7 to go 45 innings and the Dodgers versus the Mets. And for honestly, every player to have to throw pitches, have their arms falling off, leave the field crawling and being helped off, and then have Game 1 be like 2 days later.
Go
or
Sports!
Maybe an hour later. That's cool.
All right. Speaking of falling apart, Donald Trump.
Yes.
Okay, so Monday night we get his dance party, which was the lamest dance party in the history of mankind. He is really losing it. Yesterday, he was supposed to be on the stage at 7. He didn't get up there till 9. Today, he does this thing with Harris Faulkner, or it was actually recorded last night, which is even loaded with Republican operatives in the audience, and he still sounds like a knucklehead during there. I'm actually really starting to When he is constantly late, I think what's happening is his team is saying, we can't send him out here. And whether that's he's mentally incompetent, whether it's he needs a drug of some sort, or whatever the case may be, they're holding him back because he clearly is barely able to function when they are putting him in front of a crowd.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been saying for a long time, I mean, the shocking thing was, and I guess it's really because Joe Biden in that original debate, had a weak performance and wasn't landing any punches. So for one of the few times ever, a lot of time Trump seemed like a semi-normal, not normal because that's impossible person. But I think he was loaded up on I said at the time, all sorts of various sedatives and things so he wouldn't go crazy, so he wouldn't. Like I think he hasn't been there fully for a while. I think it's accelerating.
Yep.
And if you understand the way this stuff works, it's not just age. It's stress. It's lack of sleep. It's lack of exercise. It's eating habits. Gee, think about all of those and think about Donald Trump, who eats like a 12-year-old, thinks walking two steps, or taking a golf cart is exercise. I mean, he has all of the symptoms for this. He's shown times in the past where he's gotten lost. He doesn't know what's going on. I think increasingly they need to drug him up. I think the whole sort of tech bro, authoritarians, Peter Thiel and that group, they all want J.D. Vance anyhow, so they don't care. This is their vehicle to get J.D. Vance there. The theocrats, the same thing. So they're just trying to get him through this period of time. I mean, the key is that he won't release his medical records, and he even canceled an appearance on CNBC. If Joe, what's-his-face on CNBC, isn't the biggest ass kisser, I mean, that guy's pathetic how much he loves Trump.
Yeah.
He went on and tried to argue Trump's case against Mark Cuban, and Cuban laid waste to him. So if he would even go on with a huge ally on CNBC, what does that tell you? I mean, I'm sorry, that was weird. My older son saw that and was like, what the hell? He got up and he just stopped taking questions and kept asking for various versions of Ave Maria. I mean, it was watching, what's her name, Gravel Pit Gnome there. I mean, I thought at one point if Trump acted any more strange, she might just take out a shotgun and say, you want to go for a walk somewhere? I mean,
there's a gravel pit nearby. Dear Lord.
I know. He's lucky there wasn't, but you could actually see on her face, she had no idea what the hell was going on. And that she was concerned because I don't even think she was concerned for his health because I don't think any of them, they're all sociopaths. She was concerned where he was going to take things and would it embarrass her and would she have to, when she tried to do the back and forth sway with him was one of the most cringe things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was, again, if we had a normal functioning media, this would be on the top portion of the newspaper. It would lead every newscast, and he would be out of the race tomorrow or yesterday or today.
Yeah, if they covered Well, they covered it all like they covered Joe Biden in late June, early July.
Oh, my God.
It would be the end of him. It was Omarosa basically said she thinks he's got heart problems, which, you get some serious, depending on what you've got, you can get some very serious medications on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, you don't have to be a doctor. You can and Ronnie Jackson isn't anymore, I don't believe. But when he looked at Trump and said he was going to live to be like 275, he put out that report, and you could see in there heart disease. Trump was already in the beginnings of heart disease. You just need to know basic facts to be able to see that. So of course, he's just all he's done is since then is age, not sleep, rage tweet, eat KFC, crispy thighs. And watch Fox and Friends instead of getting on the elliptical. So what do you think is going to happen? Again, I'm not just saying this as a partisan. I think he's absolutely at this point, because I could say a lot of bad things about him as a partisan. Objectively, I think he's no longer there. And Republicans are freaking out right now because they don't know how they're going to get through the next couple of weeks hiding that he's no longer there.
Well, and that's exactly what it is that they're keeping him off stage. They're letting him rage tweet at night just so he has a presence. But even those make no sense half the time. He is lost. He is stuttering. He is mumbling. He is mispronouncing a lot of things.
Telling people to vote on January 5th.
Well, and then
stuff like that.
The entire argument of he gets him on stage and for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, he just puts on this weird playlist and he does some just standing. He occasionally points to somebody. He basically waves at somebody. And as you said, Kristi Noem is clearly in this position where she knows she can't make him look bad, but she's basically reverted to talking to him like a 5-year-old who she is babysitting, she can't deal with because she doesn't understand what the heck's going on. She clearly was lost up there. This is terrifying considering, is this what he's going to do with, say, Belgium comes into the White House and has an emergency meeting and he said, well, let's play my hits and just stand there and wave back and forth.
Well, let's remember what just happened, right? We just had a report from Woodward's book that Putin was 50-50 on using battlefield nukes. What do we think happens if Trump's there? I don't think he's cognizant enough to even know what battlefield nukes means. You know what I mean? He probably thinks some weird thing the way he thought for a while about granting asylum meant people were coming from insane asylums. I mean, he has no idea what is going on. But then even so, even like Republicans I know, I feel like I need to go talk to them and just be like, this you really want? I mean, you have a family, you have people you care about, like you want this in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Republicans had the party itself, Mike Johnson, any of the other leaders there had the slightest ounce of integrity, they weren't all disgusting, partisan, grifting, theocratic, just scum. They would look at that last night if they cared at all about the United States of America, and they would pull their endorsements and say this person cannot be president.
Well, and exactly. And his supporters, basically, they are willing to go down on the Titanic as long as they're 10 feet higher on the deck than they are perceived enemies. And that is who this is, and it's a mess. Now, once again, live stream with Cliff tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. on the West Coast.
Mark it down, kids.
At YouTube.
We're going to talk some stuff about what Meghan's daddy thought about her. She had to go opening her big mouth.
Oh, well, we're playing you some New York. Cliff Schecter, kind enough to join us today. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.